Steve says, hey guys. Welcome back. Today I'm going to McFox's and order some costumers' food. Steve says, let's go. Set the time to 2,401,000. Set the time to 2,425,000. Steve says, hi. Welcome to McFox's. What would you like to order? Steve says, hey little fox. Welcome to McFox's. What would you like? Set the time to 2,449,000. Set the time to 2,473,000. Steve says burger with no mushrooms, no onions, no tomatoes, and with cheese and some fries, please. Steve says, okay. Steve says, I want a number 5 drink, which is burger and some Steve says that's $430.80. Steve says, okay. Steve says, here. Steve says, thanks. Steve says, no problem, Steve. Steve says, okay. Steve says fries and burger with no mushrooms, no onions, no tomatoes, and with cheese. Steve says okay. Steve says here we go. Steve says cooking. Steve says ok. Steve says, are you a costumers? Steve says no. Steve says okay. Steve says so. Steve says I can manage you. Set the time to 2,497,000. Steve says okay. Steve says yay. Steve says woot. Steve says yay and woot are different. Steve says yeah. Set the time to 2,521,000. Steve says right. Steve says okay. Set the time to 2,545,000. Steve says give Steve command block. You have set the time to 2,569,000. Set the time to 2,593,000. Command people. I decided that was the time set to go in the wrong way to get wolves to be continued to create this world or a workshop in November 2021. So enjoy. Set the time to 2,617,000. Steve says wow. Steve says thanks, Steve. Steve says no problem, Fox. Steve says thumbs up sign. Steve says smiling face with 3 hearts. Steve says wow. Steve says, do you want a credit card? Steve says yep. Steve says get it from cash machine. Steve says which is ATM. Set the time to 2,641,000. Steve says ATM cash machine. Steve says yes. Steve says and also get money from ATM cash machine too. Steve says what does the Happy Meal cost? Steve says $3. Steve says uck. Set the time to 2,665,000. Steve says in 641,000 day, I have a new cake recipe. Steve says what is it? Steve says strawberry cake. Steve says cool. Steve says can I taste it? Steve says yep. Steve says num num num. Steve says yak. Steve says I hate cake. Steve says oh. Okay, Fox. Steve says but thanks for the food. Steve says it's so delicious. Steve says okay. Set the time to 2,689,000. Steve says or even Okayama. Steve says Okayama. What's Okayama? Steve says I don't know. Steve says if I can tell Oklahoma. Steve says Oklahoma. Steve says okay. Steve says that's the end of this video. Steve says like and subscribe. Steve says bye.